How about them Cowboys? At this time, we're going to bring on our guest, and he's probably my favorite Cowboys fan, most level-headed, knowledgeable one that I know, Brian Attard from the Sports Box. Brian, how are you tonight?
What's up, guys? How are you? I enjoy being welcomed in. I went on my compadres Eagles show. I was not as welcomed on that one, so I appreciate the love as I walk in the door.
Well, it's Philly fans. What do you expect?
I live here. I know. It is what it is.
Yeah, that Hamilton pride.
Hank wins hat of the night, though. I mean, I'm well behind. So
if I had to, one more week till
hell yeah, cannot wait.
LGR.
Yeah,
forever and ever.
I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say on Blue Truth. You guys are airing tonight, I want to say.
So we're doing the Sports Box network-wide NHL season preview, which will stream to Blue Truth since obviously I'm on it. But we're doing the whole league, divisional previews and stuff, and who's making the playoffs, who's not. Little sneak preview. I think Hank will be happy with the results. I think anyway, for what that's worth.
No, yeah, I will.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a great show for you guys tonight. So make sure to go check that out on the Sports Box at 8:30 p.m. But for now, we got Brian to talk about those Dallas Cowboys who are coming off a 36 to 28 win against the Carolina Panthers, who are without Christian McCaffrey. And Brian, your team outscored the Panthers 20-0 in the third quarter. What were your general thoughts on this football game? Because the way I viewed it is Dallas is starting to look like a very lethal offense that it's getting kind of scary for other opposing defenses in the NFL, what they were able to do to Carolina on Sunday.
And that's a very good defense. I mean, coming in now, granted, they didn't really beat any world beaters to get to 3-0, but you're still a 3-0 team, no slouch there. I was kind of surprised with the way the first half was going, but it's nice to see adjustments made at the half. The previous coach who was here, who you guys know very well, wasn't really good at making adjustments at halftime, and it was mostly more of the same. So whatever wasn't working ended up working more in the second half. You're right about the offense. If you remember, I came on preview, which I love doing, by the way, so thank you for having me. Before the season, to kind of preview things. I said, my two biggest concerns were, can the offense prove that all those gaudy numbers were not the result of the defense being trash, having to throw the ball more? And B, could the defense appear to at least play the role of a professional-looking defense because last year's was so bad? And I think in both cases, they're doing well. I know the Cowboys are ranked 26 in total defense. That's the Bucs game, and that'll fix itself over the rest of the year. But there's not a whole lot to complain about. The only game you've lost is to Tom Brady. I'll live with that. That's fine. I'm not too upset about that. But yeah, they've played well against a couple quality opponents, not Philadelphia. And I'm just sell the 3-1. It's all good. There's not I'm usually the one that's complaining about things. Right now, there's not a lot to complain about, and maybe that's what I'm concerned about. That I'm not concerned. I should be more concerned, and I'm not.
I don't know. You've gotten a lot of hate in your outside the box from some
I love
Eagles
that. That's
fans.
what I do.
Yeah,
I love that.
You kind of just feed off that because those Eagles fans are just obnoxious. Majority. We do know a couple decent ones. Sam knows a great one, in fact. But
Jordy.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes, Jordan, I respect.
Yeah.
And she's going to be on the show when we preview the Eagles. And our NFC East roundtable a few months ago was absolutely outstanding. That was an awesome show. But Dallas has won 7 of their last 8 against the Giants. They went 1-1 against each other in 2020. I remember we had you on for that Week 17 show. It was you, me, and Hank, and it was pretty much a crapshoot who was going to win. The 3 of us each took our team in that game because why the hell not? It's the last game of the season. What do you have to lose? And
sure,
the Giants have not won in Dallas since 9/11, 2016. Eli Manning threw 3 touchdowns, and it was Sterling Shepard's first career touchdown scored in that game. That's how long ago the Giants won in Jerry World. And that really concerns me because that is a tough place to play. I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas definitely has a huge advantage going into this game. And Hank, I'll turn it over to you here with the offense. But man, that place is going to be rocking on Sunday.
For sure. I'm really excited for this game too. Very nervous, but should be a fun game. And now, Brian, one of the things I remember from our last conversation that we had about football was you were very much against signing Dak to long term, were you not?
Well, for the money that he was going to get, yeah. The way the contract ended up, I think it couldn't have been set up any better for the Cowboys, given the fact that Dak was getting all that money. Like it's like he's going to get a restructure next year. It's kind of already built into it, and really year 4 is going to get ripped up, and they'll figure it out. So, if you were going to get paid and you could structure it the way that he did, it is what it is. I get very nervous paying guys who are not necessarily elite money, because then that precludes you from doing other things and makes you cut middle linebackers in the middle of week 4 for some reason, so it's like, that's just kind of what happens. But look, the early returns have been great on him. Let's remember that this is the game he got hurt in, a week 5 home afternoon game against the Giants. So like, it's weird, right? It's like the universe, right? But this is the spot that we're in. I mean, he's played really, really well to start the year. I mean, the Bucs game, I wasn't going to blame him for being less than what he's been this year coming off that injury. But the fact that he's where he is coming off that injury is extremely impressive. And I have to give him full credit there. But what I like is that they've won games in different ways. They haven't relied on him necessarily. Like, if you think back to last year, those first 4 games that he played, mind you, the defense was god-awful, but they were putting up 35, 40 points. The only reason they had to win was because the Atlanta Falcons can't pick up an onside kick. Like, that would have been 0-4.
Yeah.
They can beat you through the air. They can beat you on the ground. They can play a little bit of defense now. So in a way, they're not relying on him. And I think that helps him, because maybe he doesn't feel the pressure that maybe you normally would. Hey, we can win without me having to throw the ball 40 times.
Right. No. Yeah, that's a good point. So obviously now we know that from what I understand, you seem to be pretty optimistic about him so far and the way he's played this season, but are you also nervous about his long-term future?
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be another contract dispute in 3 years, so that'll be fun. That'll be nice and expensive. I'm not asking. I mean, I think if you expect him to be Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
And that's just the thing. Like, we put these quarterbacks in the stratosphere, like they win and lose games. In many cases, they get all the blame either way. Do I know that he's a franchise guy? I don't think I necessarily know that yet, but to be fair, he's played really well this year. So if you can continue to do that, then prove me wrong. I'll be the happiest wrong person in America if you prove me wrong on that. But I don't know. I still have some concerns. I need to see it longer and more consistent, because again, I mean, you think back to the last year before last, when the last full year that he had, the Cowboys had chances to, win. The defense, which wasn't very good, kept them in games and kept good teams to about 17-ish points, and they couldn't score more than 10. So that comes down to the quarterback. Like, I need to see you in a big spot. Do something big. We're still in like September, October, right? The Cowboys are notorious for being trash in December. Let's talk in December and see what they look like.
Yeah, no, all good points. And yeah, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably be feeling the same way. I'm not one of those people that thinks of Dak as an elite quarterback. I mean, he's shown flashes of brilliance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but like, I'm still not quite on that level. And again, this is from a total rival's perspective. I'm just not quite sold on him.
Well, to give you an analogy that I know you'll get, Chris Kreider has shown flashes of brilliance too for a long time. We're still waiting for him to break out. He's 30 years old. So,
I completely that now.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Like, yeah, I've seen you do this. Why can't you do this all the time?
Yeah, it's been since 2012, but
oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm really concerned, Sam. I'm very concerned about stopping the run again on Sunday. I don't know Ezekiel Elliott is one heck of a running back who's kind of having like a resurgence of his career.
Yeah, Zeke has been somebody that I think a lot of people underestimated coming into this year, and he obviously had some trouble holding the ball last year, and coming in now is looking 100 times better. And I mean, I think he had one of his longest runs since last year or this year. 47 yards, I believe, was like one of his longest runs. So he's been great. So my question for you is that how exciting like is it to see this guy that you also paid a lot of money for with a great O-line and like finally seeing him break out in the way that you kind of have been expecting this entire time?
You know, it's as Tom will tell you, I'm extremely critical of his drafting and his contract, especially now, right? That the guy they took in the second round that year, Jalen Smith, no longer on the team, and the guy who went after Jalen Smith, Derrick Henry, you may have heard his name once or twice. He's pretty good. Probably better than Zeke Elliott. Don't think I'm breaking news there. No, it's good to see him actually, you know, earn the money, you know, at least not like you're, you know, do your job because you're getting paid for it. But it kind of still begs the question, and I brought this question up last year, and I don't think it's really been answered, and maybe it will never be, I think it became evident that he is not anywhere close to elite without that elite offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Ipso facto, why am I paying you? I'll just pay them because I can put somebody else behind that line like Tony Pollard and see good results. Like, what is the marginal benefit you bring for all of that money? So, look, I love seeing him do well. I hate drafting running backs high, and I hate paying them, which is the decision you guys are going to have pretty soon here. Look, I think having Pollard helps him. Maybe he's rejuvenated because he's here and though maybe you're not who you used to be type stuff, and maybe that motivates him. Great, don't care, run the football. Whatever reason helps you. But I think that Pollard helps him because he doesn't have to run as much. That maybe he's a little bit fresher later in games because he's still their closer. Like if you go back to the Charger game, you know, Pollard had a very nice day. He had more yards than Zeke that day. They both got in the end zone. But when it came down to crunch time at the end and they had to get in the field goal range, that was Elliott's ball. And that's what they were doing. So like he still has their trust in those spots. Like him and Pollard are completely different running backs. So I think it's good that he has a Robin to his Batman because maybe again, he doesn't have to feel like it's all on his shoulders. It's the same thing as Dak. Like because you're getting support, it's not all on you, and maybe it just like makes it easier on them. Whatever works. I mean, yeah, he's fourth in the league in rushing, and he's 20 behind whoever's in second, and obviously Derrick Henry is far and above and beyond. But it's a strength of theirs, and they really should use it. And your offensive coordinator felt they really shouldn't use it as much when he was here.
I saw something very I forgot, I was like watching a video or something, but somebody said Zeke eats and Pollard picks up the crumbs, and I think that was a very good way of putting it, is that Zeke obviously is like your starting running back. He comes out here, he does this amazing stuff, and Pollard just comes up and he just scoops up the rest of it and just kind of finishes it off for us, and for not for us but for the Cowboys. But I think that is just like, I think that because they're so different, it works. It's like a yin and a yang kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really had a lot of time where they've been on the field together. I'd like to see that just kind of creatively, just to kind of see like how they would even account for that. But it is. I mean, you can really play a lot of misdirection, and they both run, and they both do play action. Like they can run very similar offenses with either of them on the field. I think that's good because you can really disguise quite a bit.
Yeah. Quick shout out to our friend across the pond, David Yates. Thank you so much for joining us. Good supporter of ours, and Chubb is second, 150 yards behind. Henry's in a class of his own right now. Yeah. But my next question for you is about Dalton Schultz, and this is the scariest. Also, quick question: would you start Tyler Higbee or Dalton Schultz in your fantasy lineup this week? Be honest.
Higbee's on the Rams, right?
I can take it.
It's probably Higbee because
really.
Well, here's the thing. I actually just traded Schultz in a league. I did what I thought was a sell high. I think it made a lot of sense because there's really he's not a bad player. Don't get me wrong. I do like the player. I like Blake Jarwin too, and I think that having the both of them healthy helps the other. There's really no reason why this can't be a Blake Jarwin feature type game. Like it's not as if like he's so much better than the other guy. I think they're very equally talented. So I think that like. Football, it's week to week. I mean, it's just the flavor of the week. Like he scored a couple touchdowns, all of a sudden, he's the next Tony Gonzalez. But again, nothing says to me that the exact thing that he did can't be done by Blake Jarwin. Like it's not as if Dalton Schultz is now Travis Kelce. I think we'd be kidding ourselves to think that way. So Schultz it's touchdown dependent. I mean, it depends who gets the ball. I think the fact at some point CeeDee Lamb will remember he's on the team, or they'll remember he's on the team, and maybe throw the ball to him a little more often to put some money in my fantasy draft pick. But it's just, again, like, it's not as if like he differentiates himself. This could easily be Blake Jarwin. So I think that when you play him in fantasy, for example, you're banking on getting in the end zone. Because I think if he doesn't, he's not going to necessarily, he doesn't get that lock yardage that like another tight end would, because he's the only one there.
He's a poor man's Evan Ingram. Well,
is he even playing?
I don't know. I mean,
Kyle
Rudolph's our tight end
stuff
one.
up.
Kyle Rudolph is our tight end one at this point. There's no doubt behind that. But I ask you that question, Brian, because the Giants have given up touchdowns to tight ends every week this season. They gave up a touchdown to Noah Fant. They gave up a touchdown to Ricky Seals-Jones when they played Washington, who's a backup. They gave up a touchdown to Lee Smith, who's a backup tight end for the Falcons, and they gave up a touchdown to Jawan Johnson last Sunday. So it's been 4 consecutive weeks the Giants have given up a touchdown to tight ends, and we can't cover tight ends, especially with our middle linebacker Blake Martinez being out for the season with a torn ACL, which is a crushing blow to this defense.
Yeah.
How do you expect the Cowboys to use their tight ends against the Giants on Sunday, and Schultz in particular?
It wouldn't surprise me if they did a lot of the same thing they did against the Eagles. Schultz was open a lot across the middle, but having said that, it could easily be Jarwin. So I don't necessarily know that it's one or the other. They both may eat. It depends on how the Giants, I mean, you guys know more about your secondary than I do, obviously, if they're going to be able to cover the guys on the outside, because they're extremely talented on the outside, even with Gallup not playing. So it's one of those things where, like, who are you going to cover? Because if you're going to, cover the receivers, the tight ends will get open. If you decide to kind of, move in towards the tight ends, those are very elite receivers to throw the ball to. Oh, by the way, they can run the ball out of the backfield with 2 different guys. The offense, I mean, again, it's very good. Obviously, it's very he has a lot of talent around him. So that's why I'm always kind of hesitant to say, well, how good are you? Like, you're in a great spot. Like, think of like offenses around the league with that kind of, with the line and the receivers and the running backs and everything. Like, he gets a lot of credit, but he's in a very good spot. I think it's very possible to say that one or both of those tight ends get in the end zone, but I don't know if it's a yardage thing. That's the only thing. Like you mentioned him in fantasy, it could easily be like, I could tell you to start Dalton Schultz and pump my chest, and then Blake Jarwin goes off for 680 and a touchdown. So it's kind of like, you can't read it. I think they're getting better at taking what the defense gives them. So if you're going to give them the tight end, they're going to take it. They're not really pressing as much, I don't think, this year, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, and before I get to Hank's point too, Jabril Peppers' status is in doubt for Sunday. So that's another big blow to our secondary. He did not practice today.
Help.
Sam's very upset.
That's a third captain. Hank?
No, I'm just as upset as she is. And so now, speaking of linebackers, we know the Cowboys just released Jalen Smith on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I think the real question is, what caused Smith to fall out of the rotation? Was it something to do with him not playing in the system? And how do you feel about the current linebackers on the roster?
So it's funny because coming into the year, before the even draft happened, they obviously had, a lot of draft capital in that position. I mean, Sean Lee was there forever. Now he's not there anymore, but Leighton Vander Esch was a first round pick. Jalen Smith was a high second. And they, in the draft this year, obviously they took Micah Parsons early in the first round. They took Jabril Cox in the 4th, who probably should not have been there. And I think the reason that, Jalen Smith's not really here is because, he got that deal signed, and ever since pen hit paper, he's really fallen off. He fell off even more because he fell out of favor in this specific defense that Dan Quinn runs. And I think they got to the point where they didn't want to risk him getting hurt and getting an injury guarantee for next year. Although I really hate the way that they handled this because, I have not gotten hurt playing football. Why? I'm on the sidelines or I'm not playing. So they easily could have just they could have bubble wrapped them on the side and not worried about dead cap for next year. That's just what they do. I'm not surprised he got a job so quickly. I mean, the talent's been there. I don't think he was ever going to be what he was prior to that massive injury. And I think that if it wasn't their team doctor that did the surgery, they probably would not have taken Jalen Smith that year in the draft. I do believe that. But again, when you put a high pick into Micah Parsons, who's one of the defensive stories of the year, especially on this team with Trayvon Diggs, you start to say, do we really want this much money in this position if is the juice worth the squeeze? So I think that I would have handled it differently. I apparently couldn't even get a deal done with a trade. the contract was bad when it was signed, but you make it just worse upon worse when then you have dead cap after it. I guess they didn't see a spot for him, didn't want to keep him around. Again, it's not fantastic cap management, but that's par for the course.
Dan Quinn.
See, Noah's a Falcons fan. I love Dan Quinn. Because this defense hasn't looked this good, I think, since I was in college, and I'm 37. So do the math. It's wild how good it looks, despite the fact that, again, it's ranked 26. I'm not really worried about that, but they look like at least a functional professional defense. That's more than I've asked for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of Dan Quinn and the defense, it's looked good, but in the red zone, it hasn't looked great. They've given up 10 red zone touchdowns and 15 trips to opposing teams. How concerned are you about the Cowboys' red zone defense, despite going up against an offense in the Giants that struggles in the red zone themselves?
Longer term, I think they need to button it up. Obviously, again, they're not going to be a top 10 defense. I don't think anybody's going to think that they're going to be, but they look better. I don't know what the numbers are, though, on that, Tom, as far as, when those red zone touchdowns came. Like, again, was it a lot from what the Bucs were doing? Was it in the garbage time against the Eagles, or even in the last game against the Panthers when Sam Darnold ran two of them in, for example? Whatever that means. So, I mean, I'd like to see a larger sample size before I start panicking about something like that. I can't really be upset at the defense because it was so bad that, like, now that it's not terrible, we're good. Like, it's like you can't expect everything to change that quickly. Yes, they need to address it. You need to get better there, and maybe getting Jalen Smith off the field is going to help them there. We'll find out. Maybe Jabril Cox getting a larger role will help them. But, again, it's not so much necessarily just because it's the Giants, but it's if that's the weakness, then obviously they need to be focusing on that.
And you think Micah Parsons, this comment from David, defensive rookie of the year? I mean,
at this point, he's got to be the lead in the clubhouse, right? I mean, he looks unbelievable. He's playing out of position for the most part, which is even crazier. Seriously, him and Trayvon Diggs. I mean, you had me on before the season. You asked me if Diggs was a number one. I said, I don't think he is right now, but he could be, and he could go into that role. I didn't know it was going to take him 2 weeks to do that, but he did. So
5 picks.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I mean, again, so much was made when they let Byron Jones walk. Like, oh, what are you going to do at your cornerback? Well, this kid was drafted, and he easily could have been their pick where CeeDee Lamb was taken. That was on the table, and then he fell to them in the second round, and it was just unbelievable. Like, I didn't love the Lamb pick because I felt that you need to go to your defense there because your defense was so bad, and it felt like a luxury pick to get another wide receiver for this team, but it worked out. So great. He's been unbelievable. I mean, you just hope he can continue that.
Couple comments before I get to Sam here. Nick says, let's go Cowboys. Says Jabril Cox time in Dallas. Shout out Nick Lombardi.
I love that pick because he was supposed to go a lot earlier than that. Like, from a pure value perspective. I mean, they had some questions in that draft. If you remember, like guys that like Nahshon Wright was taken. Everybody's, who the hell's that? Like, nobody even had him on their board, and they took him in the third round, but worked out.
David says, I backed it off the bat with Garrett for defensive MVP. And then Noah says, seen 3 of the 4 Cowboys games. Diggs is a stud. Well, yes, you have, because I think they played Atlanta in one of them, right? Or did they?
No,
not yet.
They played Philly and the Giants. They played 2 NFC East opponents. But
no, I think because the Cowboys have been on nationally, that's probably why he's seen them. But nonetheless, he's right about Diggs. He's been amazing.
Unbelievable. They haven't had that kind of corner in a long time.
All right, Sam, we'll get to you here now.
Yeah, for sure. And just real quick, I don't know if you guys watched Hard Knocks this year with the Cowboys, but Trayvon Diggs has the cutest son in the entire world, and it is so cute. But all right, so let's just say that the Giants win this game, which is actually possible, I think.
Absolutely possible.
And usually division rivalry, especially with Cowboys Giants, it can get very, very interesting. So let's just say, everybody has kind of been like Cowboys are going to win the division this year. It seems like a lot of people have caught on to that. So let's just say the Giants win this game against the Cowboys. Do you think the division shifts with this kind of win, or do you think people are like, oh, it's just one game, the Cowboys are going to bounce back?
I think it would give the Giants an absolute ton of confidence. I mean, you saw the way when they won last week in New Orleans. I mean, they were like the weight of the world was lifted off their shoulders to finally get one in the win column. So I think if you're able to then go into Dallas and beat a team that Tom said, like, you haven't beaten in so long. Like, you're only going to go out of that game with just, really, really feeling good about yourself. Confidence is dangerous in this game. So I don't necessarily think you're going to get calls for, the Giants are going to win the division, but I think you immediately separate the Giants from that muddled Eagles-Washington group as far as like who's trying to get into that second spot. Mm-hmm. And look, I thought the Giants were disrespected coming into the year. I like what Joe Judge did there last year. I thought that they won a lot of games last year that they had no business winning. They were in a lot of games, even the ones that they lost. So everybody was all about, it's going to be Washington. I wasn't really buying any of that. Like, I thought the Giants could absolutely finish in second place. And I think that if they're able to get a win here, even if they don't, I think that they have the ability. If they can continue to just build off what they did in New Orleans, they can be second in this division. Is it enough to get into a wild card? I don't know. The NFC is pretty deep, but they might be a better team this year than last year, but the record might not show it in a weird way. Like, I of the rivals in the division, like, they're more concerning to me if Daniel Dimes is the quarterback and they know it, like, and then they build that way. Like, they know that's their guy. That was always a question for me. I think, Tom, we talked about that, where it's kind of like, this is the year where, like, you need to basically tell us it's you, because before we sign Saquon to a big deal, we need to know that we have the quarterback for the future, because running backs don't live forever. So we can't be rebuilding again if we're paying an elite running back all that money he's going to request. So like I said, if they come out of this game with a win, which is completely on the table, their confidence is going to be through the roof, and they're going to be able to say, hey, we can play with these guys. If we stick with them, we can catch them. And belief is dangerous.
Well, what do you think of this comment from an opposition viewpoint? Do you think Daniel Jones is the franchise quarterback? Have you seen enough from him yet to make that determination? Because I know Hank just invested in a jersey today. When I spoke to Mike,
that's the kiss of death, then, isn't it?
Yeah. when I spoke to you and Mike seemed a little bit higher on him than you did. Not saying that you weren't, but I think Mike is kind of bought in. I feel like he's passed his eye test. From you being a fan of a team that's in our division, you've seen him twice a year. So what do you think?
He's the leading rusher on the team, right? So that's good.
Yeah, by 2 yards.
By 2 yards. He just does it in flashes. I mean, like, I remember the first year he was like, I remember that Tampa game where he just like was like throwing the ball to Darius Slayton all over the field. I'm like, wow, they think they got somebody, but it's just the consistency's not there. Most players in the league, like, you'll see them do great things in a very small sample. The great ones just continue to do it over and over again, like an Aaron Rodgers. So it's tough. I mean, I think if he's not the reason they lose games, for example, like if he keeps his turnovers down, it's hard to say that they're gonna make a change there. But having said that, I'm a big like look back at what could have been with the draft, and I think if they didn't take Daniel Jones that year, you probably have Justin Herbert, because they loved Justin Herbert in that draft last year. Look, Sam knows, right?
Oh,
like that's.
I would have been crying.
Listen, we could be Miami right now.
No, I agree with you. No, again, look, it's what it could have, should have. Obviously, I'm not saying it. It is what it is. But like, there was some talk even in that year. Could the Giants make a change and take him? So if they didn't take him, I think Herbert would be the quarterback, and Herbert looks just unbelievable. So I don't think you can say it one way or another yet. I mean, he's not done anything where you say he's lost the job, but I don't necessarily know that, like, other than small samples, that he's gone out and won the job longer term. Does that make sense? Like he's looked great, like unbelievable at times, and then he's also falling over the 20-yard line in Philly last year. So it's like, it's just those moments that, like, you kind of like, it's almost like you pull back. You're like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm just not sure.
Well, last year, the new scheme definitely hurt him. Learning the new scheme in the short off season under Jason Garrett's offensive scheme. I mean, you know how Garrett's offensive scheme runs. I think one of the keys to this game, as we'll dive into that segment now, is to protect Daniel Jones. As Noah says, they did that well on Sunday against the Saints. The Giants have the 7th-ranked passing offense. So when Jones has time to throw, I think he's spot on. I mean, we've seen that, and we've seen the weapons that the Giants have had. They're filthy. What scares me is you guys have rushers like Randy Gregory, Micah Parsons can rush the passer. So, and I like that rookie Osa Odigizua inside in the trenches. I think he's really good too out of UCLA. So I am a little concerned with our offensive line in this game, but I think the fact that Andrew Thomas has also taken a step forward has helped Daniel Jones take a step forward, because Hank and Sam, you could both account to the fact that Andrew Thomas's success ties in with Daniel Jones's success. They're both growing together, and there's no player that works harder on this football team than Daniel Jones. I mean, we all know that. He's
Correct.
Day in and day out the most hardest working player on this football team, and it's showing right now. He didn't have Shepard last week. He didn't have Slayton last week. He had half of Evan Ingram. I mean, he hasn't had Evan Ingram.
Right.
Look at this. Ryan Vigil says Jason Garrett was a good hire. I'm wondering if this is clickbait here or
no, he's got the Pinocchio.
No, he's Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, are we watching the same games?
Also, a lot of people think Washington is overrated. We have David saying it and Noah saying it. Washington should be 0-4, and you could argue the Giants should be 3-1.
You absolutely could argue that. And I was, razzing my Washington fan friend on the Sports Box, Brant Meeks. It's like all I heard all offseason was the Cowboys probably win the division, but that Washington defense is so good. I'm like, well, now it stinks. And
right.
Again, so they took Chase Young over Justin Herbert. Now they have no quarterback and their defense stinks. So congratulations. Like, it's like you can't, when you have a quarterback that you could go get them. Like, if you don't have one, you need that first, then build around. I hated that pick for them. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He's going to be a very good player, but it's like, how many more defensive line guys do you want to put first round picks into? Like, until you draft
hand jersey too, by the way.
Yeah, I know you have a straight hand jersey, but he's saying too soon, Hank. I was way too soon. If Hank was too soon, I'm light years too soon. Kevin, what's up, Kevin? Not all the blame should go on Joe Judge. The defense needs to step up big time. Everyone else on offense is putting the work in, except Ingram. Yeah, Ingram's so bad. You spelt his name with an I, so I do appreciate that. Yeah, I think one of the keys, too, is keeping Tony involved in the offense. And, Brian, you're not going to like hearing this stat, but the Cowboys have 29 missed tackles. That is the sixth highest in the NFL. Not saying the Giants are much better than that. But, Sam, what is one of your keys to the game on Sunday?
I would say that one of the big things is that obviously we saw the Giants struggle this week with the Saints and the run game. And that's something that we've been discussing throughout this show. It's like, that's going to be one of the biggest things that we need to contain, because if the Giants don't do that, it's not going to be good for us. And Zeke's going to run all over us. Tony Pollard's going to run all over us. It's just not going to be good. And I think that even for the Cowboys on the other side of things, they need to watch out now for the fact that Jason Garrett is letting Daniel Jones throw the ball. I think that that's going to be something that's, when it's good, it's good. And if it's not, it's not. I mean, Jason Garrett, I'm sure that is not he's a very conservative play caller, which is like not really great for our offense. So the more, how do I word this? Like, kind of like the more outgoing he is, I think the better that the offense will be. And I think that we kind of saw that this year. So I think the Cowboys kind of need to be aware of how far Daniel Jones can actually throw the ball. And when he can't, he's going to run. And I mean, there was a bunch of times Sam Darnold did that to you guys last week. So you gotta watch out for that green bean running down the field, because he might be lanky, but he can take off.
And I guess my biggest concern in this game, other than the leading rusher on the Giants being Daniel Jones and obviously the quarterback winning a couple touchdowns last weekend, is Kadarius Toney, frankly, because as far as I know, Shepard's not playing, correct?
He didn't practice today, so I wouldn't expect him to. Hamstrings are tricky. I don't think he's going to play.
And Slayton's not playing, correct?
No, he's more than likely not going to play.
So then you got to figure that Diggs is on Galladay. That would make sense. So then now Kadarius Toney goes up against Anthony Brown, who I have little to no confidence in. So I think if Diggs does his job, that if the Giants are smart, they will target Kadarius Toney against Anthony Brown. And having his breakout game last week, you would think, something stays in motion until it doesn't. They should continue to exploit their first round pick and throw the ball to him in a spot where I think he's going to be able to get open and really hurt the Cowboys that way. He's probably the one guy that I think that might make or break the game. Is if he has a big game, then they could easily be in trouble. I think Diggs will do fine on Galladay. It's just my confidence in Trayvon Diggs is through the roof with good reason.
I added to that.
Right. That's the thing. Like, that's where I think if the Giants are trying to exploit a weakness, obviously you can run on the Cowboys, but that's the guy that I think could hurt them.
I don't disagree with what you're saying about our game plan, that it should be to attack Kadarius Toney, but my fear is that airing it out too often will play into Dallas's game, where you won't win a shootout with the Cowboys. That's how I feel. I mean, Carolina threw a lot last week, but they were without McCaffrey, right? So I think Barkley is going to be more key in this game than people think. And Noah brings up a good point. Toney is a good player. His OC is just a clown. Should replace Ronald McDonald, referring to the red hair. Yeah,
I don't miss him. I'm gonna put it lightly. I don't miss him.
Take him back.
Yeah,
can't listen.
Hank, what do you got for us?
Well, first of all, I don't miss Ronald McDonald either. But second of all,
neither do I.
You know, I would say one of the keys to this game also got to get off the field on third down. We know that's been a problem a few times for the Giants in other games. And, you know, while I think definitely they made some bigger stops in the last few weeks, it's still something to watch out for because, you know, Dak Prescott, as I've said, we've seen his flashes of brilliance. He can definitely change a game at any moment, and you still got other weapons on that team. So as far as this show is going to go on, that is always going to be a key to the game for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Before I get to Sam's point and get Brian's key, I mean, I personally think you have to pressure Dak Prescott. I mean, this defense has just 6 sacks through 4 games, and 3 of them are from a rookie, right? It doesn't get easier. You got Tyron Smith and Terrence Steele, who's filling in for Collins. And then Tyron Smith, again, PFF is a guideline that I use, but I don't hold it to the book, where I do know the numbers are a little bit inflated in some respects, but Tyron Smith has a 91.6 PFF offense grade. That's second among tackles. He's 5th in pass blocking, and his run blocking grade is over 90. So he's rock solid. And then Zach Martin, who's my favorite player on Dallas for obvious reasons that Hank knows, is the top guard in the NFL, according to PFF. And again, a great pass blocker and an even better run blocker. So, I mean, what more could you ask? The fact that Dallas still has a steady, sturdy offensive line scares me, because that's something the Saints were missing last week. They didn't have Teron Armstead, and that really hurt them. You have Cesar Ruiz, who's a young, developing center. Their O-line isn't as good as the Cowboys. So that's going to pose a lot of matchup nightmares for the Giants edge rushers and interior defensive linemen, which, quite frankly, yes, I'd rather – here's where Giants fans get me a little annoyed. They ask me, we should still have Dalvin Tomlinson, right? It would be so much better if had – but then you wouldn't be able to keep Leonard Williams, and you'd be asking yourself the same thing, right? If you had Tomlinson and not Williams, let's say the scenario was reversed. Well, we really miss Leonard Williams, and he's really affected us. You were going to lose one of those 2 players. Giants fans don't seem to understand that. Not all, but most. That's where I stand with that.
I mean, hey, the cap is a necessary evil, unfortunately.
Dakota? Prescott? Is
it's actually his middle name.
It is his middle name. It's actually
first name is Rain.
Yeah, Rain Dakota Prescott.
I did not know that.
Petition to call him Rain Dakota. I call him Rain Dakota all the time, and nobody ever knows what I'm talking about.
I mean, call him Bill for all I care. Just keep throwing touchdowns.
Well, something that I just want to kind of ask you before we move on is, so I actually asked this to someone I had on my podcast this week, who's also a Cowboys fan, and I love to get opposite takes from people who are not Giants fans on this, because I know what our strong points are and what our weak points are, but what are you fearing about the Giants this week? Is there anything that you're actually like, ooh, I'm a little nervous about that going into this game?
I think it's a mixture of 2 things. A, it's confidence, like I said, because now, I mean, look, they're coming in here at 0-4. They're like, woe is me. Like, that's a completely different team that you're playing. Coming off the win that they had last week, I mean, you're coming with a bit more jump in your step. Like, you actually believe a little bit more. And Yeah, like I know they haven't won here in what you say, almost like 6-7 years, whatever. But again, you're not coming in with an offer in the win column. You're just a completely different player after that because you don't worrying about it. But like I said, I think to me offensively, it doesn't shock me if Kadarius Toney gets 100 yards. Doesn't shock me if he gets in the end zone twice. Like that to me is they don't have a second corner. Like Anthony Brown's just not really a number two corner. So, when all the talk of Gilmore getting released, I thought maybe Dallas would make a phone call. Then it didn't happen. That's a weak spot for them. Again, I mean, they do need to address it, especially if Diggs continues to raise his profile. He almost might end up getting treated a little bit like Revis Island, where they're not even going to try to throw the ball at him. They'll just throw the ball to the other guy because he's open. Don't force it. The Giants always play the Cowboys tough. I mean, even games the Cowboys end up winning, just like weird stuff happens in those games. So it's like you can never take anything for granted. I know they're a pretty decently heavy favorite in this game. That means nothing. It's a divisional game in the NFC East. I will tell you one thing. I have zero concern that Jason Garrett remembers anything this team does. I not even like that isn't even on my radar. It's like how like I was like, oh, he's gonna get revenge. Good for you.
No, no.
Can barely tie your shoes. Like I'm not worried about it.
Would you say your key to the game then is pretty much staying confident and knowing where Kadarius Toney is on the football field?
Well, that, and I think if the Giants get out to a lead, again, the Cowboys haven't really trailed that much.
Right.
They've been in games, even against the Bucs. I don't recall them being down like more than like 2 touchdowns. I don't think they've been down 2 touchdowns. To my recollection, I could be wrong. It's been a couple weeks. Yeah. But if the Giants come out there, score first, and then get them a stop, like then you're going to start to say, well, like if you can get up like 14-0, 10-0, like all of a sudden then maybe the Cowboys run their offense differently. I mean, if the Cowboys get a lead, they're very good at keeping a lead with their running game. And I don't know if the Giants would then they might have to really try to air it out at that point to stay back in the game. It's not the Giants can score with the Cowboys. Like I'm a little more bullish on them maybe than you are, Tom, on that. And that like they can win a shootout with the Cowboys if it got down to it, if they had to. Necessarily they would like to be in a shootout with the Cowboys, but if it came down to it, like they're fine. Like they'll figure it out. I mean, I still think the best individual, most talented offensive player in the field is still Saquon Barkley. So when you have that, you always have a shot. But yeah, I'm just envisioning. Before I found out that Shepard was the guy I was more concerned about because I've always thought he was very good, just underrated good, and even Slayton's always had good chemistry with Jones. So, but I think again, Toney coming off that breakout game, you could easily see another one of those. That way, if I were the Giants, that's the direction that I look.
Watch out for Caden Smith too. That's a player nobody talks about. I truthfully think he is. Like he should be the number 2 tight end on this football team. It just so happens that Evan Ingram is still wearing, unfortunately, a blue jersey, and that's the reality of the situation. And he's had good chemistry with Jones as well. Before we get into score predictions, because I know Brian's got to run over to his hockey show, I want each of us to give a player to watch for each team. Even though we already kind of touched upon a few players. Brian, I'll start with you here. 1 player for Dallas. 1 player for New York.
They better get CeeDee Lamb the damn football. This is ridiculous. They're really not throwing much to him, and he's too talented for them not to do that. I mean, if he starting to break out again, their offense just takes another level. But that's if the Giants focus on the tight end, I think Lamb will be more open. So I think if CeeDee Lamb has a big game, I think the Cowboys. I mean, if any team is going to blow the other team out, I think it would be Dallas blowing out the Giants. I don't think the Giants would blow Dallas out. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it went one way or another, I think it would go that way. Lamb's a supremely talented receiver who I'm the first person to admit I didn't like the draft pick because it was another wide receiver. Kid's playing great. I mean, he's just super talented. And on the Giants side of things, again, I know I've been gushing over Kadarius Toney. I really liked the draft pick. I didn't like them taking a receiver. I liked that it was that receiver, if that makes sense. Like I still don't understand why they felt the need to go get Galladay and John Ross is John Ross, but and then go get Toney like there was nothing else that you needed. But they went that direction. I liked him a lot in this draft, so I thought it was a really good pick for them. Plus the trade worked out.
Sam, who do you got?
I'm gonna go defense for both of these teams. I'm gonna say on Dallas' side, it's got to be Trayvon Diggs because of all obviously getting 1+ interceptions in every single game is obviously something to be looking out for. And especially with him going up most likely against Galladay is going to be something to keep a lookout for. And on the Giants side of the ball, I'm going to go Ojulari, mostly because of the fact that last week we really didn't see much of him. And I have a feeling that he's going to want to come out in this game, especially in a division game, and get that sack again that he missed last week. So those are my two guys.
All right.
He did not have it. Hold on, Hank. I just want to say he didn't have a sack last week, but that tackle on 4th and 1 really helped us stay in that football game against New Orleans.
Yes, definitely. All right. As for my guys, I'm going to go on defense for the Cowboys. I'm going to say Micah Parsons. So far, he's gotten off to a really good start. 17 tackles, 3 of them for loss, 2.5 sacks. We know he's going to get a bigger role now that Smith's gone, but the real test for him will be going up against Andrew Thomas. As you mentioned, Andrew Thomas has been really good at protecting linebackers from getting sacks, and he pretty much, as Tom alluded to earlier in the show, deleted Cameron Jordan, and I think it'll be interesting to see how Parsons does if he's going up against for sure.
I was there last night. I went to AEW.
I know. I saw that on your social media. Yeah. I didn't want to bring it up, but I knew right away what you were referring to. Us WWE, AEW guys. Yeah. There's not many of us, but hey. Sorry, Hank. Continue.
Sam, who's your favorite pro wrestler?
As far as players start, I
have no idea. Sorry.
I've never watched wrestling a day in my life. But anyways, as far as watch for the Giants, I'm going to say Daniel Jones because, again, gotten off to a good start. I'd love to see how he does against a rival. And I think the real reason I'm picking Daniel Jones is because he's had 3 straight great games this year. Like none of these games, he made a bad mistake that really affected the game. And and against the big time rival in the Dallas Cowboys, I think this is a game where it's going to be a real test to see whether that continues. And if the line helps him out, and if he keeps playing the way he did last week, I would not be surprised if he has another big game again this week.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing too, on the road, Jones has played 16 career away games, 25 touchdowns, and only 7 picks. He's played much better on the road than at home. For me, for Dallas, it's Dalton Schultz. I mean, I'm sorry, but 6 catches, 58 yards, and a score last week. He's scored a touchdown in his last 2 games, and we know the Giants struggle to cover tight ends. He has 3 touchdowns on the season. No Blake Martinez, no Jabril Peppers. I don't know if I trust Tay Crowder and Logan Ryan trying to cover tight ends. The Giants definitely struggle in pass coverage. And then for the offense, I think I'm going to go Barkley because whichever running back plays the better game will probably give their team the edge here, right? Again, we mentioned we don't want to get into a shootout with the Cowboys. Brian thinks we have a shot in a shootout. I don't. Difference of opinion there, but we also need to get Barkley involved in that passing game now. And we did that last week. He had 5 catches, no Shepard, no Slayton, no problem. And if you rewrite that script, John Ross had a pretty good game last week. So you still have 4 viable options and Kyle and Evan. The Giants still have a ton of weapons offensively, even if Shepard and Slayton don't play, which is where it's looking like now. And Brian, I have one last question for you, and then I want your score prediction, and then we'll let you go. If there was one player you could steal from the Giants, who would it be and why?
Leonard Williams is a monster of a man. He is just on. I was when they traded for him, I thought it was kind of weird because I didn't think the Giants were going to make the playoffs this year, and they didn't. And question if you could sign him or not. But I mean, at his position, he is fantastic. I mean, that's offensively the Cowboys are fine. I'm not really worried about that. But I would tell you, like, he would be such a crazy addition to the inside of that defensive line. I would love to have a guy like that. But he's, as you know, I mean, like, they gave him the money, so I mean, they believe in him too. He is just an unbelievable player, a huge piece of that Giants defense.
I like that answer a lot. I mean, Leonard Williams, we gave him the bag. And at this time, score predictions, Brian, as the Cowboys fan, you will go first. And I think I know where you're heading here, but I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I don't think they blow him out. The Cowboys will score points in this game. I think the Cowboys get about 31 points. It's up on the Giants, see how where they get after that. My initial inclination was like 31-23, like not like a crazy game, but like a 1-score game where the Giants at the end like maybe try to get the touchdown and just don't. I don't think the Giants are as bad as people outside of this division think teams in this division are. I think that I really like what Joe Judge has done in a short period of time. I mentioned that to you a couple of times because they won games actually they should not have been in without that running back. Like they actually ended up playing better without Saquon Barkley, which is weird. Like I don't know why, but they did, and they won more games. I think he's a good head coach. I hope he doesn't get if they fall off. I hope he doesn't get the blame for it because I think he just might need more time to build the roster and what he wants. But again, look, the Cowboys are going to score points. The question is, can that defense hold up? I think, and if they can contain Tony, I think they're in a really good spot because I think Saquon will always get his. You really can't game plan for that entirely. But given the fact that the Giants are hurting at wide receiver, if you can keep those big two taken care of, there's not a lot behind them right now. So I think 31-23-ish is kind of where my head's at.
Interesting, because fun fact, I believe, what's the line? 7.5?
7.5, yeah.
The Giants are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games against the NFC East, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games in October, and they're 20-6 against the spread in their last 26 road games. I don't know what it is. We played much better on the road than at home, so that's a little interesting fact. But
interesting.
We can't win that way.
I did not know that. I will now change my wagers. So it's legal now.
Brian, if you want to stick around for our predictions, you can. If you got to go, you got to go. I know
I do
minutes,
have to talk a little puck with the guys. But listen, hey, thanks for having me on. I always love coming on review and preview. Sportsbox is great supporters of you guys, and you guys are in our thoughts. Obviously, I was very sad to hear your friend Brian, who was part of the show, passed away. I never had a chance to meet him or do a show with him, but I mean, obviously, we've gotten friendly over it a little bit, and I can see he was important to you guys, and it's really sad. But the longer you guys keep this going for him, I think his memory will live on, and I think that's part of doing something like this is you're able to build this over time. It's sad to see what happened to him, but God bless him, rest in peace, and I know you guys will do well for him.
Thanks, Brian. I really do appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you guys, and we're big supporters of you guys as well. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks, guys. We're gonna go talk some hockey. Hey, the Rangers are making the playoffs.
Love it.
First of all, I have one thing. That you're damn right.
You're making a playoffs this year.
You're damn right.
Yeah.
We'll check you out in just a few moments.
All right, guys.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Good, Brian. Well, good luck, but not really. You know how it is.
Yeah, of course. All right.
LGR.
All right, guys. Take care.
See you, Brian. All right. That was Brian Attard from the Sports Box. He's an awesome guy. He's one of my favorite guys to talk to when it comes to the Giants, the Cowboys, NFC East stuff. He's awesome. He says 31-23, so he's going against the law of averages here. Sam, you're next. What's your prediction and final score?
I'm going to go Giants this week. I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling excited. Maybe I am a little confident after last week, but I'm going to go 28-24 Giants. I think that we're going to be able to put these points on the board and get this very, very important divisional win under our belt.
You want to know a fun fact? The Giants have never won a game in the Joe Judge era where they scored over 30 points. I actually think that's going to change this week. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to go 31-27 G-Men.
Oh my gosh. Sam, what was your score again?
28-24.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't see it.
No,
I don't see it. Dallas is going to win this football game. They're the better football team. I want to pick my Giants. I want everybody to go home happy tonight, and I would love to win back-to-back football games on the road. But Giants have historically not done well in Dallas over the last 5 years. I don't see that continuing. However, they're going to cover the spread. Dallas is not winning by more than a touchdown. I have Dallas winning by a final score of 27-24. And as concerned as I am about Dalton Schultz, I don't think he gets in the end zone this week. I think this is the first time this season the Giants will not give up a touchdown to a tight end, and that's why I just left Tyler Higbee in my starting lineup for my fantasy team this week. I'm a true Giants fan, and I will not start a Cowboy against my football team.
Well done. Well done.
And then Noah has a quick question. Considering your opinions on paying running backs, I know. Thoughts on Tony Pollard? I think he is a starting caliber running back in this league. he's not better than Zeke, but it's kind of a similar situation with the Barkley-Gallman combination last year, because Gallman really gave you what you needed at the tailback position. I think Pollard would give Dallas what they need at the tailback position behind that offensive line, but Dallas has improved so many areas of their team. I think Pollard is a serviceable running back too, who can step up into that running back one role when Zeke is injured, or if hopefully he's not for their sake. But I think when Pollard's contract is up, he's probably going to go elsewhere and compete for a starting job. That's how I feel about him. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I said it earlier. Zeke leaves the crumbs, and Tony Pollard picks them up, and that's why they work so well together. But no, I agree. I think that he is, he gives me like Wayne Gallman vibes. Like kind of behind this star running back. He stepped in for Saquon last year, and like he's great, but not the star of the show. And it's just, you can be great, but not a star. So I think that that's definitely kind of the same vibes there, that one day he'll probably be a starting running back somewhere, but on this team, there's just not room for it. But in the meantime, I mean, I think that their dynamic is good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When you have a really good line, you can probably put any solid running back behind that, and it'll work.
Quick updates for the Giants injury-wise. Shepard, Slayton, Peppers did not practice today. Thomas, Caden Smith, Leonard Williams, Ben Bredesen, and Nate Ebner all did on a limited basis, and this is the first time on a Thursday this season Barkley participated in full, not on a limited basis, so he continues to get healthier from his knee injury. One last quick announcement. Our official review and preview merchandise launches next Monday, October 11th on Bonfire. Make sure to go check us out on Bonfire. Dominic Daniele is going to put, nice little teaser video for us up on our social media. Fonz will be promoting our apparel. That'll be out on Monday. Get your T-shirts, long sleeve T-shirts, coffee mugs as well. We're going to have hats on sale too at one point. So if you're interested in the hat, please let us know. We'll be blasting that all over social media for both of you. But Hank, Sam, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, unfortunately, I will not be able to watch the game this weekend, but all I have to say is that I am hoping but nothing but the best. Just like last week, we went in very skeptical and got a really great reward for it. So I'm hoping for the best here. And as always, go Big Blue.
Depending how you want to look at my prediction, I'm either very optimistic or very stupid, but I don't care. My gut for some reason is telling me the Giants are going to win. It's been a long time since they won in Dallas. The blind dog finds its bone eventually. I don't know why. I feel like the Giants can pull it off, and looking forward to this game. Really nervous, but Tom, as always, thanks for having me and Sam on. Always a pleasure talking football with you, and let's go Big Blue.
No problem. As always, we'll be back next week. We'll recap the Dallas game, preview the LA Rams game. Make sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue below on our ticker. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Big Blue Avenue to check up all our up-to-date content. But until then, on behalf of Sam Cardona, Hank and Dichter, I'm Tom Scavetta saying so long. Enjoy the NFC East divisional football this Sunday. Giants, Cowboys, doesn't get any better than that. And let's go Big Blue.